How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Voodoo 15 here, Voodoo Vince. And here's some more warships here. We're in the Nagato, and I've apparently already killed someone. I have a NVIDIA shadow play set up so that I can record around 10 minutes or so of footage if something happens cool. So you can currently see we kind of how the fight has devolved here. I had, if I recall, I had fought down here, ended up killing someone. I'm not sure exactly who. It's been a little while since I played this game itself. I'm digging through the archives, and what I'm going to try and do with some of these videos is actually walk you through what I'm doing as I'm doing it, and I believe that this will help you in your battleship gameplay for operating alone primarily. When you have friends, it's always good if you can, especially if you can have cruiser help as a battleship. But most of the time, you're going to be alone fighting these guys. So what we're doing right now is, if we look down here in the bottom of the screen, we can see that I myself am traveling along the bottom of the map. This white circle denotes my firing range. The dash circle is my surface detectability, meaning that people can see me. Not really worried about how far someone can see me. Currently, my only target that I can see is this battleship here, this Texas. A cruiser and a destroyer that were friendly had died. This is before, this is update, I'm not sure what update this is, but it's before you had some of the last known markers, or maybe I don't have them turned on. So what we're doing currently, let's see, turrets 1 and 2, the forward turrets are almost loaded, and the aft turrets just fired. So what we're doing is, I'd probably been fighting over here in this corner, and then as the enemy progressed down here, and as everything kind of happened, I'm moving back towards my friends, which would be these battleships. And by friends, they're not really people I know, they're just green guys. So we're going to proceed that way. You're going to hear some chat in the background, probably from tanks and stuff, and that's going to be Jack Thorlin and Ironclad Virus and some other guys, and they're talking about tanks while I'm doing this. But I'll pause it, and we'll go over what exactly I'm doing as I'm doing it.
How we wanna play it?
We got this side, so I'm gonna stroll up to about E4 and shoot at folks going up the hill.
That sounds good.
Okay, so what we have here is this battleship, this Texas, wasn't looking at me, and then when I hit him, he suddenly, oh, there's a ship. So as you can see here in the left-hand corner, my angle indicator, or whatever you want to call it, obviously he's looking towards me, and I'm pretty much broadside. Now he's a 5 and I'm a tier 7, so I don't necessarily have to maneuver, but it's good practice to maneuver. So as you'll see that I'll start to actually angle to increase the angle either towards him or away from him. We'll see which way I'm going. I haven't turned yet, but I should be should start turning here. Maybe I thought about it and then decided not to. So as you'll notice here, you have these indicators, and if you've never really messed with this at all, let me go ahead and tell you some easy ways to do this. On American battleships, at full tilt, meaning that they're moving at their max speed, the 10 indicator is pretty much going to be where your rounds are going to land, for the most part, as long as they're straight and level, as long as they're moving horizontally to you, and you have a good broadside, your rounds should impact. Obviously, as you'll see some other targets where I'm going to fire at some different angles and stuff, even though the boat is faster and further away, and we'll go over that as that happens. So here goes number 3 and 4 turrets. The dispersion was too high, so there goes 1 and 2 turrets. And the rounds were okay, but we're shooting some AP and we've got some dispersion going. So he's going for that island.
All our fast tanks filled off.
He's going for the island. We're going to see if he's going to make it there. We'll drop the volume of the video here just a little bit. Alright, so he's made it behind cover. So what we're going to do now is, now he can't engage me. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is begin to close the distance, because I need this guy dead. I don't want him in my base. I don't want to have to mess with him. And I don't want him to heal.
Well,
Which I think that he is, actually. He's taking some damage and he's burning or something. He's losing some health. So suddenly we see a Mitsuki, which I probably knew that there was a DD in the area.
been spotted. They have no idea. It's a fucking.
But now we're starting to close the distance here. So this destroyer is starting to smoke. We're paying attention to that. And we're waiting kind of for the Congo to light this guy if he can. Now, anytime that you're going to, we know that this destroyer on the map here, and you can see my cursor, is right here in this area, meaning that he's probably going to fire torps at this Congo, but he could also fire torps at me. So a good practice is to pretty much point your nose directly at an island, so we know that the destroyer is on the other side of this small island here. And if he's going to fire torps, he can't fire torps under the island or through the island. So he'd have to fire them out here or out here. Well, we know he was moving this way and he smoked this area. So the odds are that he's going to move to engage this Congo, which is the greater of the two threats. Even though I'm a larger ship and all that, he has a greater chance to kill this Congo than he does me. So if he cruises out here and he fires at my ship now, then I would have to have proceeded outward in this direction in order to get shots on the Texas or on him. So what I like to do is I like to put my nose pretty much right at an island, where if he's going to fire these torps, a lot of times they're going to come past you before you decide to turn your nose to the right to go around this island here. So we're going to proceed with the video here. So we're making our turn here. I got some music going in the background. So we're going to proceed towards it. So we've been spotted. Okay, well now he's actually came out towards us. He's backing up. So we're going to zero our guns, but we know he's going to end up going forward. So what I do is I fire at the center of his boat. I hit him a couple times, but I'm firing AP, so it's going to over-penetrate. It's not going to do what I want it to do. This also means that he can't really fire those torps directly at me, so I can go for a broadside to shoot at this Texas. Now, the Texas is probably about 45 degrees, so he's kind of in this angle here. And so we want to fire a little bit closer to the boat because he's probably turning into us, and we want these rounds to kind of arc in here and hit him. So there goes a couple shots there. Those are good, 10,000. We're waiting for number 1 and 2 turret, the forward turrets to load. And he's turning into us. So as he's turning into us, we have 1 and 2 turrets, 3.9 and 4.2. So that's number 1 and number 2. You have to think about this as he's firing. So he's turning the nose this way. So what I want to do is I want to fire under him. And by under him, I mean under right here. That's what I would define it as, firing under him. So what he's doing is he's turning this nose here. So what I want to do is predict, and I want to fire directly at his boat, because no matter what, his boat is going to be right here in this area. He's turning the nose so that he can travel this way, but his boat is right here, and it's going to continue to be right here for several seconds. So I'm going to fire pretty much directly at him. Now, obviously that's what I do sometimes, but having not watched this video in a long time, I didn't fire. So what I've done is I'm waiting until he presents me with a better target. These are secondaries that are firing here because we're within 4.7. Alright, so I've made my first shot here, and I fired directly off his nose, and the rounds should impact right around here. And they do. And that's pretty much all she wrote on that. So, and obviously, okay, cool, so we've destroyed this, we've killed this battleship. There's still a destroyer right here. Now, he is Japanese, which means he's hard to detect. He's got long-range torps, 8K, I believe, or 10K, but they're slow. So the very first thing we want to do is turn out and away from him. Now, we'll see if I actually do that, which I started doing that. We're turning away now. And I've also changed to HE. And so what we're looking for is either him or torpedoes. And when you start to detect him, kind of before you detect him, your guns and your automatic targeting system will kind of pick him up and kind of let you know that you're fixing to detect him. So his smoke just went out, and so he's sitting still. And if you don't play destroyers, then you won't understand. But right now he's out of position to fire torpedoes at me. He can't. Okay, but he's killed while I was engaging that other ship, he killed the Congo died. I got one Congo of that group. The other one died because this one killed the Texas, and then he in turn died. So this Mitsuki can't fire torps at me unless he's already shot them. He's sitting still. We've got no wake here, no visible wake, and no smoke. And so now what we're waiting to do is we've got a few seconds, 1.7, until all main guns are loaded. Now currently we have some smoke here, so we know he's going to start to proceed this way, but it's going to take him probably about 3 seconds to get moving. So we're going to fire at him. And actually I fire to the left of him, anticipating he's going to turn. and he actually turned away from my guns. I expected him to go to the left, and he went to the right. We're at 5.5K, which is well within their range. Something he has to worry about is this dead ship here, which you can't fire torps through as long as it's on the surface. As you notice that I'm moving away from him, and that's kind of something that you want to do, especially on you want to get as far away as you can. You either want to close the distance and get as close as you can, or you want to get as far away as you can, typically as far away as you can, to make him chase you. You want the destroyer to be chasing you so that you have time to reload and engage. So we're moving away from him. We've got 20 seconds on our reload. And so we have a cruiser that's here with us. So what we're going to go ahead and do is turn into them. And hope that we can stay inside that minimal spot distance. So the destroyers the cruisers continue to engage. And I know that a lot of folks have trouble hitting destroyers. So what I'm going off of, obviously all of this is knowledge and shot prediction. This destroyer, even though he's probably doing around 20 to 25 knots right now, is turning, which means he's slowed. Which means I don't need to fire way out in front of him. I also want to try and fire where he's going to turn into somebody. So we've got good prediction there. And so what ends up happening is he's traveling along in a straight line at around 25, 30 knots. And when he goes to make a turn, he's going to slow. But he's also going to operate in that same area. He can only make a circle so big. So what you want to try and do is fire on that outside edge of the circle. If you can imagine it from above, if you're looking at it from up top, imagine a circle. And that circle is the diameter. That is the max turn radius for that ship. Meaning that no matter how hard he turns, that's the smallest circle he can make. What you're doing is you're shooting at this circle. You're predicting where he's going to be at on that circle as he's making his turn. Now, he only may make a slight adjustment, but a lot of times he's still got to operate essentially along that circle, much like little ducks at the carnival on the little tracks. He's got to stick in the middle of him, and the middle of that boat is going to pretty much operate right on the edge of that circle. Even though the nose may be inward and the tail may be outward, he has to operate right on the edge of that circle. Now, this shot here was fairly simple. He's turning. He's moving slower. I want to fire under his nose and slightly ahead of him. And, of course, you're firing, 15, 16-inch guns here. And he can't take that. He just gets vaporized by HE. We continue to turn into the target after destruction. On destroyers, always continue to maneuver after having killed the ship, because he can fire the torps and you may not see them. So what we want to do is we want to put our nose on to where he died at, so that we have the smallest target for the torpedoes to pass by, and so that if we have torpedoes coming at us, we can avoid them. Left or right, or just take a single one on the nose and continue forward. So now what's kind of happened is me and these other two guys were fighting down here. We had this big wad of green guys went up here and fucking died in the cap circle. So they currently have what looks to be a Warspite or a Wyoming. It might be a Texas. It looks like a Warspite, a Congo, a Phoenix, and probably a Russian boat. Oh yeah, it's a Bladoni or whatever the fuck that creature is. Let's cut ahead here a little bit. So my plan was to proceed around this way. We knew this area was fairly open, and I assumed that these guys that were fighting, the red guys were fighting mostly up here, and we could sweep that way. Not really realizing that you only had 4 minutes to really kind of accomplish this. Suddenly, here comes this full health Russian cruiser. Okay. Yeah, it was a Pensacola. Okay. So, So suddenly we have this Russian cruiser here. So obviously we can't go this way because he would start capping before we can start capping. So we're going to flip a bitch. We're going to come about. So we make our turn. And of course, if you don't play battleships very often, there's pre-firing or pre-angling your guns, pre-turning guns. So, okay, I've got a battleship or I've got a cruiser. I have something to fire at. It's on the left side, the port side, or I have something on the right side, the starboard side. And I want to fire at it And I know that it takes around 30 seconds for my guns to traverse 180 degrees or so. So as soon as I go, I want to fire off the left side of the ship. Go ahead and turn your reticle to the left side of the boat, and then hold your right mouse button, and that's going to bring you out to third person, and that's going to make your guns are locked at that heading. So they're going to go ahead and continue to turn till they reach that heading, and that's going to have your guns turning while you're maneuvering, but you can still look around and see what's going on. So that allows you to, and again we'll go over it one more time. So what you're going to do is point your cursor at the angle that you want. Just point them off the left side of the boat. Right mouse button, that's going to keep you zoomed out free look so that you can look around the boat and do your maneuvers while your guns are doing. And go ahead and start planning your route of travel. I have an island here. I have a cruiser here. I want to proceed along in front of him, essentially with the old school crossing the T. Crossing the T is essentially you have a boat coming directly at you. Just imagine right at your screen there's a boat coming right at you, and the nose is pointing right at you. Your ship is broadside to him. You've created a T. That T means that he can only present forward guns to fire at you, while you can present all of your guns to him, crossing the T. So what I want to do is I want to proceed out across here. Essentially, he's going to either have to come towards me and close the distance, or he's going to have to turn out and away to try to present his guns to turn this into a broadside fight. The other thing happening is he has this Congo right here that's coming towards him. So he's either going to have to proceed inward and fight all three of us at the same time, or he's going to have to try and maybe duck behind this island and engage his Congo alone initially. You can already see that he's lost some health. He's a light cruiser. He's a heavy cruiser, but he has very light armor. And he's already got 3 kills, where who knows how good of a player he is. So we're going to continue, and we're going to start setting up for a shot. Now, on cruisers, fast cruisers, Japs, Americans, Russians, who the fuck ever, 25 to 30 knots, you need completely zoomed in at least 15 on the marker. On some of the faster Jap battleships, you need around 20 or so, meaning that this 15 indicator needs to be kind of over here. Now what you can do is you can do 2 things. You can either go, hey, I know where my round should be, and I fire everything at the same time. Now we can see that I've got 2 guns that are in battery and ready to go, and I have 2 guns that are out of position. And I'm also firing HE. I've switched back to AP. AP versus HE is a personal preference. You'll have to decide it on your own. Thin skin cruiser, I'm going to shoot AP. Right now I have HE loaded. Don't switch in the middle of the fight unless you absolutely have time to do it. In this position, what I could do is switch to have AP ready, which I'll probably end up doing, firing off all my HE in one go and then reloading fresh with AP. So we'll see what I do. But so what we want to do is we want to continue to truck along here. He's going to be focused on the Congo, which is right in his face. The Congo is probably going to, if I recall, he turns out this way and ends up getting killed by this guy. So in order to achieve citadels and stuff, this solid line here needs to be right on the water line. And as long as this boat doesn't change, turning left or turning right, which means he's either moving towards you or away from you, your round should, within dispersion parameters, should pretty much impact where you want him to hit. And as he starts to turn, he's going to lose speed. So this, having this 15 marker out there is relative to his speed and what you predict it to be. So you can see that I'm sitting here kind of gauging what he's doing, and I pretty much got it set on the water line at around 15. And so I drop it in because he starts bringing the nose towards me. And as he turns harder and harder and harder, we have to think about that circle. You're not necessarily shooting at him. You're going to shoot where he's going to be on that circle, which is his max turn radius. Because the nose itself may not be there, but the middle of the ship will be. So we fired all our HE off, and we're changing back to AP. Now, the dispersion was still pretty good, but our timing ahead was a little off. He started to turn, then he thought better about it, then he kind of turned again. We still got some rounds on target and did some very good damage. And now we're changing to AP. This Congo is moving away from him. This guy also has torps, if I recall, and that's something to be careful of. So now he's more concerned with this Congo here, so he's putting his nose full onto this guy while giving me a complete broadside, which I'll be loaded in 5 seconds. Now, he's also turning away from me again, but he can only turn so far because of this island, so you have to take that into consideration when you make your shots. He's not at full tilt yet because he just made a turn, and he's also turning away from you, so not only do you need to shoot higher, you also need to shoot in front of him. And whenever you're not sure on where the rounds need to land, fire them singles, boom, 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 instead of firing everything at one time. Everything at one time, if you're correct, will get you, that one set dispersion. But if you fire them individually, then they have their own dispersion, and there's a chance that you'll get some hits versus no hits. We can see the HE coming over the aft end of the ship here from this other cruiser, and his rounds are going to be on, and I think I had a couple rounds impact, but a lot of them were short. So what we're doing here is the Congo is on fire and is moving directly away from him, and so now we have an opposite deal. The Congo is moving away, and this Ludonia is crossing his T and is now presenting all his guns, but he's also under fire from both of us. And he dies due to Beer Cow, the other ship of the same class. So what ends up happening at this time is we got 2 minutes 15 seconds. The Congo burns up and dies. So me and this Russian cruiser are going to proceed north, hoping that someone would come down to engage us, but they were up in points, so of course they wouldn't come down to engage us. And this turns into, is a solid fight with a little bit of tactics. Well, I say a little bit of tactics. There's quite a bit to it when you play this game, and it's a heck of a lot bigger game than, say World of Tanks and that kind of stuff. But we end up having a pretty solid game, nothing fancy. Because I didn't rush over to the other side, the east side of the map, I was essentially alone for the most part on the west side of the map. I had a couple guys that pushed up, and then they died. It, not as heartfelt and not as solid as some of the other games, but that'll give you a pretty good insight as to, kind of what you're looking at and things that you should be thinking about. And I'll continue to do these kind of fights as I go through, and we'll walk through what I was doing and what I was thinking on these fights. If you like this kind of stuff, leave me a comment, subscribe, and if you have any other questions, go ahead and ask me, and I'll try to come up with some other tutorials and things to help y'all out. We're going to start doing some close-range battleship combat and fighting destroyers. Destroyers are really sneaky up close, and their torpedoes are real powerful, so we're going to start kind of working with that. All right, guys, well, have a good day, and I appreciate y'all watching this.